On 5 News, death and destruction. A storm Doris hits the UK. A woman is killed by falling debris in Wolverhampton. Flights are cancelled as planes struggle to land. And there are problems on the roads and railways too as snow, rain and gales hit. Also, 34 years in jail for the man who murdered his fiancée. Ian Stewart was branded a danger to women as he was sentenced for killing the author Helen Bailey. Net migration falls to its lowest level in more than 2 years. And forget 5 a day, why some experts say you need 10 portions of fruit and veg. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. Storm Doris has been causing chaos across the UK throughout the day, with winds of 100 miles an hour disrupting travel, bringing down trees and cutting off power to thousands of homes. In Wolverhampton, a woman has been killed by a piece of falling debris, and emergency services elsewhere say they're dealing with several casualties. Well, the Met Office is still warning of wind, snow and ice across many parts of Britain. Peter Lane reports.
Whipping up the waters of the River Mersey, Storm Doris forced the port of Liverpool to close with gusts of 100 miles an hour and meant those braving the elements faced the danger of being swept off their feet. Similar scenes in London, where one woman grabbed onto a lamppost for safety and where torrential rain lashed at the streets and traffic, making getting anywhere difficult. Dozens of flights around the country were cancelled or delayed. This Iceland Airjet was buffeted so much it had to abort its landing, later touching down safely in Manchester after declaring a low fuel emergency to get to the front of the queue. Now look at the top of this screen. CCTV captures a large tree being uprooted by the storm in London. Gales brought down many power lines and trees like these in Cheshire. At one point nationwide, more than 30,000 properties were without power. And in Wolverhampton, the storm claimed a life. A woman died in the street after being hit by flying debris. Damage to lines and speed restrictions affected most rail operators today. All services were halted for a while this morning at London's Euston Station.
We were sat on the train for half an hour before they told us we couldn't leave, so we're waiting for a phone call to see if we can get hire cars. Otherwise, we're stuck in London. Yeah.
Came from Manchester, travelling back to Manchester whenever I can. So far, they've told me that they might be able to get me to Rugby, but then they don't know what I do from there.
Some of the strongest winds were in North Wales, along the coast near Llandudno. This all described as a weather bomb, which means a rapidly deepening area of low pressure.
Now recently, of course, the weather warmed up and calmed down, and you might have been forgiven for thinking that spring has sprung. Well, Storm Doris is here for the day to say otherwise.
And in parts of Scotland, that saw the weather system hit colder air, bringing snow instead of rain. Drivers struggled in the wintry conditions. Some schools were closed and roads were blocked by accidents, including for a while the main M80, leaving hundreds of people stuck in their cars. The storm may now be moving on, but the travel disruption for many will last well into the night. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Well, let's get some more now on the woman who was killed by a piece of falling debris in Wolverhampton. We can cross to Julian Drucker, who's there for us. Julian, what are the emergency services telling you about what happened there?
Sian, nowhere in Britain has felt the ferocity and tragedy of Storm Doris today as much as this place. It is the main shopping street in Wolverhampton. It happened in front of the Starbucks behind me late this morning. Some debris fell off a roof onto a woman below. An ambulance crew got here at 11:45, but they say it became apparent that it would be unable to save her life. They say that she died of very serious head injuries. Whatever that debris is, it's about to be moved by the crews here. It is around the size of a coffee table, so we will get details on that shortly. But that one woman is the one victim today of our extreme weather.
Julian, thank you. Well, for more pictures of the extreme weather that's been hitting the UK, just head over to our Facebook page and search for C5 News. And if you want to know what the weather has in store for the rest of the week, then Chris Page is going to have the full weather forecast for you right at the end of the show. Wicked, a danger to women and a killer who carried out a heinous crime. Today, a judge jailed Ian Stewart for 34 years for murdering his fiancée, the children's author Helen Bailey, and burying her body in a cesspit. They had been planning to get married. He was plotting her death to get his hands on her multi-million-pound fortune. Now he's likely to end his days behind bars. Dominic Reynolds was in court.
Helen Bailey's brother, John, on the right, has come to this court virtually every day for 7 weeks. So has Jamie Stewart, the son of the man who killed Helen. Today was their last here. They saw a judge tell Ian Stewart that he'd taken from the world a talented author in a cruel and callous way. They listened as Stewart was sent to jail for 34 years. He will be there at least until he's 90. You knew Helen Bailey to be a wealthy woman, the judge said, but were not content with having to share in her wealth as her husband. Instead, you wanted it all for yourself. Judge Andrew Bright said that while Helen Bailey was planning a wedding, Ian Stewart was planning to kill her. And he said that planning, the fact that he did it for money and the fact that he lied to her family and friends meant it was difficult to imagine a more heinous crime.
My name's Helen Bailey, and I'd like to introduce you to
Stewart pursued a fast-moving relationship with the wealthy, widowed author. The jury took 5 hours yesterday to find that he killed her in April of last year. And while he told police and her family she'd taken some time away, he dumped her body and the body of her dog Boris in the 15-foot cesspit beneath their garage. Police are now looking again at the sudden death 6 years ago of Ian Stewart's first wife, Diane. Judge Bright said today he was convinced Stewart posed a very real danger to women. The two families were denied the chance to see justice delivered today. Ian Stewart refused to attend court. A final act of selfishness from a man police described as a narcissist who only ever felt sorry for himself. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News at St Albans Crown Court.
Well, tonight you can see a special programme on that story. It's called Murdered by My Fiancé. It's at 10 o'clock here on Channel 5. The issue of immigration played a big part in the EU referendum campaign. Now we're getting ready to leave, so what difference, if any, has that made to the number of people from abroad arriving and staying in the UK? Well, for the first time in 2 years, the numbers have fallen. Is it down to Brexit? Here's our political editor, Andy Bell.
Every 3 months we get a snapshot of the numbers coming to and leaving the UK. And today we learned the overall figure for people coming here has fallen. A good thing?
I would like it to come down. It needs to be moderated, most definitely. Okay. And I voted to be out.
No, I think it's terrible.
Why?
Well, I think a multicultural society is the way forward.
I just think it gives normal people that live in this country a better chance of employment, housing, etc.
Yeah, I say it's a good thing.
Why?
Really, like I said, there's bad people right there. You don't want them in the country messing up the place.
The net migration figure, the number of those coming to the UK minus those leaving, was 273,000 for the year to the end of September, down 49,000 on the previous 12 months. The net figure for people coming from the EU was 165,000, almost exactly the same as the figure for those coming from the rest of the world. These figures cover about 3 months after the referendum, so is there a Brexit effect? The government says no.
At the moment, we have open immigration with the EU members, freedom of movement, so they can come and go as they want. I don't see any particularly significant change with an EU migration. The real change will be when we leave the EU, and then we'll be able to make the choices ourselves, what level of immigration we want to have, which is what we're seeing in non-EU migration.
There's been a fall in net migration from Eastern Europe, fewer coming, more leaving. And at this Polish centre in Birmingham, they understand why.
I think people are kind of scared of what's going to happen and how to deal with it. There's no proper information to all the immigrants.
I already know people who made the decision about leaving UK, moving to other European countries, because people would rather not wait and see what's going to happen.
The aftertaste of Brexit is a little bit bitter and people don't like it. No one wants to feel unwanted where they live.
Immigration was a central part of the referendum campaign. We're still working out what exactly has been the impact of the referendum result.
Let's talk to Andy, who's at Westminster for us. Andy, what is your verdict on what these figures are telling us today?
Well, Sian, everyone is saying it's too soon to say these figures can show a clear Brexit effect. For instance, the Office of National Statistics, who crunch these numbers, they say while there's been a significant decrease in net migration from Eastern Europe, within that there's been a jump in people coming from Romania and Bulgaria. And also another factor in terms of bringing the numbers down has had nothing to do with people inside the EU. It's been non-EU long-term students. Their numbers have significantly declined, which has helped to bring this number down. And on that big picture of getting net migration down below 100,000, remember that remains the government's target. When I spoke to Amber Rudd today, she said it was still some way off.
Thanks, Andy. Coming up on 5 News, we hear from the actress Naomi Harris as she's honoured by the Queen. And what do you think about the new calls to eat much more fruit and veg?
Could you manage to eat 10, do you think? 10 portions of fruit and veg?
No.
Not 10, no, about 5.
It's just too much, I think.
We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. Prison works. That used to be the refrain of the Conservative government. Now, though, the emphasis is shifting, with the Justice Secretary Liz Truss changing the definition so that jails are seen as places for reform and rehabilitation as well as punishment. Well, critics say she should be concentrating on sorting out overcrowded, underfunded system first. Simon Vigar reports.
Prisons are in crisis. That's the view of prison officers who point to this riot at Bedford in November. There was also this at Birmingham just before Christmas. The government says it's dealing with staff shortages, but reform and rehabilitation of offenders is also key. One former prisoner told me there's a lack of joined-up thinking.
It's all good that there's courses in prison, but there's no follow-up after that when being released. So it's just left in the deep end, basically, with no armbands, basically, because once they're released, they might have the skills, but how do they get into this position to actually get into these jobs?
Politicians have always known there are votes in law and order.
We shall no longer judge the success of our system of justice by a fall in our prison population.
Labour is the party of law and order in Britain today.
Prison works. The current Justice Secretary says reoffending is the main problem.
We've never been clear that prisons do need to be places of reform, and we've never put the measurements in to see how well governors are doing and how well ultimately the Secretary of State is doing with that system.
Those on the front line are not convinced.
Well, we've heard it all before. It's more pie in the sky, really. We've seen a government that's promised reform, a rehabilitation revolution. They keep retitling it, and it just seems like more nonsense from the Ministry of Justice.
23-year-old Ario is one of the success stories. He now has a good job in IT, thanks to the charity Key for Life. He says everyone deserves that chance.
I never had the sort of belief that I could actually go and work within the city. I didn't think I'll be actually wearing a suit every day. But with the guidance of Key for Life, they gave me the opportunity to kind of express myself.
It's a snapshot of what's possible and what the government needs to expand if it wants to stop the revolving door at the country's prisons. Simon Vigar, 5 News.
Iraqi forces have made a significant gain in their battle against so-called Islamic State in Mosul. They've recaptured an airport and hope to use it as a launchpad for the rest of their campaign. The go-ahead has been given for the first phase of the HS2 high-speed rail project. The line from London to Birmingham has received royal assent. It's scheduled to open in December 2026. 6 people have been arrested after police discovered an enormous cannabis farm in a former underground nuclear bunker. Officers discovered several thousand cannabis plants worth more than £1 million at the site in Wiltshire. We are always being told that we should eat 5 portions of fruit and veg a day, and perhaps we may struggle to fit it all in. Well, some scientists say we should double it and squeeze in all of this if we want to live longer. Researchers from Imperial College London suggest that 10 is the magic number because protection against disease increases with every portion of fruit and veg you eat. Ruth Liptrot has the details.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 portions of fruit and veg. Nope, keep going. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10? Yeah, that's how much scientists would like us to eat to help prevent serious diseases. Dr. Dagfinn Owen is from Imperial College London, and his favourite fruit and veg are...
squash and tomatoes, I think.
So what did the research show?
That if everybody ate 10 portions per day, we could prevent 7.8 million deaths, premature deaths globally. Even with lower intakes, let's say 500 or 400 grams per day, we could prevent between 4.5 and 5.5 million deaths per year, premature deaths. So it's big numbers.
Well, if that isn't an incentive, I don't know what is. And some fruit and veg in particular are good for specific illnesses.
Apples and pears and citrus fruits and green leafy veg and cruciferous veg like broccoli and cauliflower were found to be best at reducing heart disease and stroke.
But how achievable is it for us to eat 10 a day? And how much do you eat?
Could you manage to eat 10, do you think? 10 portions of fruit and veg?
No.
What do you mean?
A day?
No. Yeah, a day?
No. Well, I have a banana a day, an apple a day.
How would you feel if you ate 10?
It's like bloated.
You feel bloated?
Yeah.
Carrots, parsnips, peas.
Wow. How many do you eat at the minute?
About 5.
Oh, that's good. Is he healthier than you then?
Yeah, 2 or 3 for me.
Lettuce, cheese sandwiches.
Cheese is not a vegetable.
See, what we really need here is an idea of what constitutes a portion size. Well, technically, 80 grams.
Here's a nice handful. This is 1 tangerine and 1 satsuma. That's
a portion.
And if we look at these raspberries, I could get about half of those into my hand. So it's about half a punnet would be a portion.
So if I ate 5 punnets of raspberries, would that do it?
No, because you need variety.
Oh.
The good news is that frozen and dried fruit and veg also count. So maybe work towards 10 portions, definitely aim to achieve 5, but any is better than none at all. Ruth Liptrot, 5 News.
Now it's turning into quite a week for the British actress Naomi Harris. In 3 days, she's up for an Oscar for her role in Moonlight. Today, she was at the Palace to receive an OBE for her services to drama. The actress is best known for playing Miss Moneypenny in the last 2 Bond films. She said she was delighted to be awarded the honour and had some warm words about Her Majesty.
What I was really impressed by is how youthful she looked. She looked incredibly young and really healthy, and she has lovely skin. That's what I was most impressed by. This is just really phenomenal because this is representing my country and being recognised for having made a contribution to the nation, which is, it can't get better than that, really.
The Olympic gymnast Max Whitlock was there too, awarded an MBE. He made history at the Rio Games where he won 2 gold medals and a bronze. And you can find out what Max had to say about his honour on our Facebook page. Search for C5 News. And the stars are out in force for another big event tonight. It's the launch of the much-awaited film Beauty and the Beast. It's got plenty of big stars and, of course, a big dose of Disney magic. Let's have a look. Oh, I'm afraid we can't have a look, maybe a little bit later. Let's cross over to the red carpet now and talk to Minnie Stevenson, who's there for us. What's the atmosphere like? Not many people there at the moment, Minnie?
Hello, Sean. Well, I can confirm, don't worry, it is very magical at least. So we have the atmosphere of the magic. And if you look at the back here, we've got a not-so-secret garden here. We are in the middle of a stately home. There are some people that just kind of darted around over there. In fact, it reminds me a little bit of the castle where Belle was captured by the Beast in the film. But before I lose myself in the world of Disney, which I'm not going to do, Ian McKellen is also just in the background over here. I can see him staring at me as I'm live, which is, you're almost putting me off. I'm talking to Channel 5 live right now. Do you want to come in and say hello? Here he is. He wanted to join us. He was... No, you're live on Channel 5. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Now, we're going to come back to you, but first of all, we're going to throw to Emma Thompson, who is also in the film.
This Belle, this version of Belle, is really good because she chooses everything, you know. She chooses to save people, she chooses not to save people, she chooses to come back because she senses something in this guy and she sees the beauty of his character underneath. She's sort of, because she's empathic, but she's also really strong. It's a good character.
I'm being told off by Sir Ian McKellen for talking too loud and interrupting his interview, so I'm very sorry to Sir Ian McKellen. Now, if you join me later on 5 News tonight at 6:30, I'll be talking to Emma Watson and Sir Ian McKellen as well, so it's not to be missed. And once again, I will not be shouting next time.
Sounds like there's a good party there, though. Thanks, Minnie. See you a bit later. Oh, what a lovely man. Matt's here to tell us what's coming up on 5 News tonight.
Well, hopefully more of that, Sean. That's what we're expecting. We are expecting to have Minnie at the Beauty and the Beast launch later, where she said she's hoping to speak to the star of the film, which is Emma Watson. It seems like there's just tons of stars down there, Sean, like shooting fish in a barrel. Also at 6:30, why your smoke detector might not wake your children if you have a fire during the night. We'll be talking about a brand new type of alarm which uses parents' voices. And I'm going to be joined by Kids TV presenter Anna Williamson, who's talking about her new book, which is all about anxiety.
I shall look forward to all that at 6:30, Matt. Thanks very much for that, yeah. That is it for now. Chris Page has the weather for you next. Matt, of course, back at 6:30. Thanks for watching tonight. Goodbye for now.